Get your films on with the Blurs.
Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate.
Unpacking movies has never been more spot on, woke, fire, and just plain lit.
They are lit all the time.
So if you're unsure whether or not to plop down some cash for a film, check out the Blurs.
When a man with a 45 meets a man with a rifle, the man with a pistol is a dead man.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolyte.
You really only need to hang mean bastards. But mean bastards, you need to hang.
Don't say you weren't warned. Ridiculous. Here's Brandon and Jeff.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the Film Blurs. I'm Brandon Norwood and I'm joined here today by my friend Lee Romero. Lee, go ahead, reintroduce yourself as always.
What is going on, Film Blurred Nation? This is Lee Romero, back in full demand.
All right, and we are here talking about a movie I think a lot of people are interested in. I don't know if it's anticipated or not, but we are talking about Superman. James Gunn's Superman, the first movie from DC Studios, the newly relaunched arm. You know, they're trying again, and I don't blame them. Lee, what's your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts when I first heard about this new iteration of Superman was like, oh no, here we go again. Can DCWB just get this shit straight? But you know, after so many films and after so many different people playing Superman, I guess this one turned out to be a surprise because James Gunn, for some reason, this dude has whatever it factor it is to get these comic book films feel like comic book films, you know? And even though this may seem like the umpteenth Superman movie, I gotta tell you, there was something about this that felt new and something that felt different. Just the overall scope of it. You know, like it dives right into it. There's no, origin story. I am so done with origin stories. I don't know about you, Brandon, but me, I am done with all that stuff. So one of the first things that caught my eye with this was like, damn, this is good because it takes you right into the story. The plot, I mean, very simple to follow, not too complex, not anything that just like makes it feel like, oh my God, this is cartoonish. No, because the story does have a lot of campiness and silliness, but there are moments of heartfelt scenarios, especially with between Superman, Clark Kent, and Lex Luthor, which to me, there was some kind of a backdrop in terms of social commentary, because throughout the film, Superman, as you know, and through comics and other films, he's considered a quote unquote alien. And then this dude's like, yo, bro, I'm a human being just like you. I may be different, but I'm just like you in so many different ways. So it plays a lot on that, and that to me felt heartfelt. It was definitely something that really touched me. And then you have all these new characters that you haven't really seen. And throughout the film, it's like, you have moments of colorfulness. It feels like it's a big bag of Skittles. And then there's other darkness in terms when they're pretty much focusing on Lex Luthor and his team and all. But I mean, it mashed all well together. I didn't really care for all of the characters, but there were some that I did feel like, man, this felt right into place, and overall, yes, it's weird, it's silly, but I mean, it works. It definitely works, and I thought the film in so many ways restarts something that has piqued new interest in me, and I can't wait for what's next. What about you?
I like it. I think the first like 30-40 minutes, it's kind of all over the place. You know what I mean?
That is true. Yeah.
I and by all over the place, I mean like the tone. That's basically what I mean is the tone.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you where I'm looking forward to seeing more with these characters, and I think that's another problem with the movie. In addition to the tone, is that there's too many characters for this movie's own good, quite frankly.
Yeah.
because there's iconic Superman characters like take for instance Perry White. Perry, played
Yes.
by Wendell Pierce, great actor. He is not really doing much or in this much, which was surprising. Um, I gotta agree with you. I do appreciate not getting an origin story, at least for characters we've already seen. As far as origin stories, I don't need one for every hero, but I think
Hmm.
for certain characters, it's unavoidable. And here, thankfully, James Gunn does a opening text to set up the world for the DC universe, and he kind of, and I mean this in a good way, not a bad way, but he yada yada yada's it, and I was like, okay, cool. So we're just getting straight to the point here,
And
instead of
that's what makes this movie beautiful and stands out.
right. And I'll be real with you. During lockdown, I read a lot of the Rebirth stuff, which was a reboot for DC Comics in general.
Okay.
And I gotta admit, I was surprised that they were pulling from Rebirth with what they do with Superman's parents, which I don't want to get into here for spoiler reasons. I was just like, oh wow, we're doing this with this character, and we'll talk about it later when we meet up next week for a screening. But
Yeah.
I'm also surprised that they went deep into the lore, and one of the villains has their identity hidden the entire movie. And I thought, okay, well, obviously it's going to be a reveal as to who exactly it is. And when this character is revealed, I was like, oh, we're doing this with this character, so that way we could get this out the way and
Hmm.
do the version of that character everybody loves. And that again, I will tell you much more later. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like definitely too many characters. Like you could get rid of Cat Grant. You could get rid of because Cat Grant she's just, to me, I was just like, damn, like we already have Miss Tessmacher. Why do we need Cat here? Uh,
Yeah.
because they're doing the same thing. Quite frankly. Uh,
Uh-huh.
And then Beck Bennett's character, Lombard, I was just like, man, Lombard, who'd have thought Lombard was done better in Man of Steel than he is here? He's another character that could have been cut.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk about the plot though, before we get any further. Basically, Superman's been operating for 3 years.
Yep.
He gets involved in an international conflict, which kind of sparks some legal troubles, and Lex, being Lex, wants to sabotage Superman,
Yep.
and he breaks into the Fortress of Solitude and steals a message from his parents, which reveals something that puts everybody on Earth on edge. So now Superman has to get to the heart of this conspiracy against him, and as well as well, save the world as always.
Yeah.
Um, I will say this. I like Nicholas Hoult as Lex. Lex is
Hmm.
very Trump coded. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, extremely. And that's where I said, there's a lot of social commentary in this with a lot of the dialogue that I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah,
this is touching home,
yeah. Especially the
Yeah.
international shit where the stuff going on between these two fictional nations. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
this is Israel and
And Gaza
yeah,
or
yeah, or
Iran or
right.
whatever war Israel's.
Yeah, it's basically is like I was like, damn, this could be Russia and Ukraine. This is Israel
Yes,
just
yes, anything.
yeah, because
Hmm.
Israel is just attacking anybody and everybody. And
Hmm.
I was just like, the way Lex has his hand in this international conflict, I'm like, dog, this is just Trump. This is Trump
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
doing all this shit. And I thought that was all really well done. I think it's really interesting to me and crazy that this lighthearted and goofy movie, because this is a comic book put on screen, like
On screen,
a
definitely,
hundred
definitely.
percent. Like it feels.
Hmm.
This is the. I will say this more than Guardians. This feels like a comic book thrown on screen. Like Guardians was goofy, but like still grounded. This is not afraid of just being fucking goofy.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
I was so surprised how well they handled the geopolitics because they tried to do this in both Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman. I'm like, bro, a movie this fucking goofy shouldn't be doing geopolitics better than a quote
Hmm.
unquote serious movie because those were serious, real, gritty movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just that there's so much to this. I see. I need to watch this again because I know there were. I believe I mentioned this to you in the text the other day. There were two cameos, I believe, that I missed.
Well, three.
One was obvious toward the end when the individual came out.
Right,
I mean, I just don't want to spoil anything,
right.
but there was one where like the crowd I was sitting with went crazy and they clipped. It went through really quick, and I'm like, who the fuck was that? And as you know, I have visual issues, so it's like I really got to focus on things. So I'm like, I got to watch this again. So there's in terms of like what this movie feels like and what it's going to give us in the future, I am really, really psyched. I am on board. You know more about Superman than I do, but it's like to me, this has been like a different type of experience. And now I feel like I'm watching the right Superman movie as opposed to other ones where I've enjoyed all Superman movies in some way, shape, or form. Well, maybe not all. I don't know, that Superman 3 with Richard Pryor and then that other one, though, that was something different. But they've all been effective in some way, shape, or form. But this one, when I left the theater, bro, and I was on my way home, I was like, damn, this movie was resonating. And I'm like, everything from like just like I even loved Halt as Lex Luthor. I think right to me right now personally, he's been better than Kevin Spacey.
Yes.
I love Gene Hackman, but there's something about Halt. There was something slick and smooth about this dude. You know what I mean? It was just like he was just there and just bitter and in your face and really worked opposite Clark Kent, who for some reason this actor had, I don't know how you feel, but to me resembled Christopher Reeve in many different ways. Instead of like Cavill or the person who was in that other Bryan Singer Superman, which I can't come up with right now.
Superman Returns. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Superman Returns because
Hmm.
they it's a sequel to the first two Superman movies, and it's basically like a remake of the first movie. I was not really a fan of that. I did like Brandon Routh as Superman,
Hmm.
but that movie
That's his name. Yeah.
that
Hmm.
movie was boring. Like and
Extremely boring.
and that I just rewatched Donner's original Superman Sunday, and that movie
Hmm.
Superman doesn't show up until 50 minutes into the movie, but yet it's still so interesting because you're getting to know him, all the people
Hmm.
on Krypton, his parents.
Hmm.
The character building is done so well, where you're watching this kid grow up and see
Hmm.
the struggles that he's going through, so that by the time he becomes Superman, you're like fully invested. And Superman Returns, I think the problem is just like we're just watching this guy mope around, and I think that's also the problem with Snyder's is that we're just watching this guy mope around, and there's barely any action, right? Barely.
Yeah.
Like the biggest set piece in that movie was all in the trailers, which is him catching the plane. And
Hmm.
thankfully here, they give him things to and people to fight, other metahumans and other monsters. Because at one point he fights a kaiju. It's in the trailer. Like he fights a kaiju. It's
Yeah.
pretty. It's really cool. Uh, I, Man of Steel. I like Henry Cavill. I like that movie. That movie does have problems as well. It's just everything
Hmm.
that came after Man of Steel, I wasn't a fan of. Uh,
No, not at all.
Right, I could do with literally like I kind of wish WB just let Snyder be like, hey, you're just doing a Superman trilogy, not a fucking DC universe. I remember when they first announced that because Man of Steel quote unquote underperformed, and
Hmm.
when the sequel came time, they're like, yeah, you gotta set up the DC universe and you gotta do this and that, and I'm just like, not with this version of Superman, and it backfired because that wasn't the right version. Here, this is the
Yeah.
right version of Superman. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the movie it's a little over 2 hours. Like it's 2 hours and 8 minutes, and it's a
Yeah.
little. I appreciate the fast pace, but it's definitely overstuffed. Uh, how do you feel about Crypto?
I, you know, at first, because I'd seen him in the trailers and all, and I'm like, I don't know. I know Crypto is a pivotal character in the Superman universe, and I'm like, well, let's see how they fit this in. At first, I was like, but then throughout, like they didn't it wasn't like force feeding him to you in any way, shape, or form, but you just saw little tidbits that added like little cutesy stuff to the story, which, at one point I really didn't care for it much, but then after a while I'm like, well, like it kind of like, I don't know, it fits in this weird James Gunn Superman world in some way, shape, or form. So I didn't really hate it. I didn't love it. I didn't really want it, but whatever. I mean, it didn't really like affect the movie to me that much.
I agree with you. Like Crypto didn't bother me too much.
Hmm.
Especially once you get to know why that dog is the way it is at the end of the movie. I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, like y'all.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it like kind of like patched in for me. I'm like, okay, you know what? I get it. I get why this dog is the way he is. So you know what? I think I'm fine. Which, with the inevitable sequels, I'm sure he's gonna pop up. I'm okay with it. So
There. Just to go back to your point about the cameos, there were actually three cameos because
there were three
I
cameos.
forgot
See?
I forgot about one. I think the one that got, because we went to different screenings, and the one that got
Yeah.
a reaction from my audience, because we saw it the same night, just at different theaters.
At different theaters, yeah.
Uh, it was. By the way, just let me ask: was your theater mostly press? Because my theater,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't. I hate Warner Brothers for doing this. They gave us a promo screening, but it
Hmm.
was mostly roped off for press and friends of the studio at my theater, and there was only 3 rows available for Gen Pop, and I kind of felt bad for those Gen Pop people because that line was OD, and I was just like, damn, they probably turned down only probably 50. I want to say maybe 50, 60 people from that Gen Pop line came in.
Jeez, yeah. Ours was over at that AMC Times Square, and we saw it in their IMAX
Yeah, that
theater, which was
janky
Theater One.
IMAX.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, I
That's
would have loved to have seen this at Lincoln
Well,
Square.
that's why I stayed where I stayed, because I was like, I like
Yeah.
my local IMAX better than that janky ass Times Square IMAX.
Yeah, so I would say the only rows that were open to Gen Pop were the ones that were like on the ground. But once you start to get into the stairs with that second level, everything from there all the way up was press. So I got there early enough to just cop my spot where I like to sit, and yeah, it was just like everything was just press, and you could tell they were like friends of the studio, or because it was just like all these people moping around with, because they were giving away capes and posters and
Yeah,
shit like that over
yeah.
by us.
I
So
hate the pomp and circumstance of this whole shit. I'll be
yeah,
real with
I didn't care for any of
you.
that. I really didn't care for any of
Yeah,
that.
man, and I'll be real with you. I like going to strictly press and critic screenings with professionals for a reason. And I think I probably would have liked this movie more for, I will say, many different reasons, because trying to see this movie was frankly, a pain in the fucking ass, number one. And number two, the
Yeah.
screening was a shit show. Like, trying to get in was a shit show, because even the press people that were invited to the one near me, I was like, you motherfuckers are unprofessional getting in, like no respect for each other, no respect
Mhm.
during the fucking movie. I hate going to these type of screenings.
I hate promo screenings, bro.
Yeah,
I've always hated
yeah.
fucking promo screenings, and I've made that very clear through the years I've been doing this. But for some reason or another, at times you just have to bite the bullet, and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right, I'll do. I had a hunch it was a promo screening, but mine flowed well. We had a pretty good crowd. It wasn't the crazies that we're used to here in New York City when it comes to promo screenings. But there was something wrong with the projector. The shit started like 30 minutes late,
Okay, so it was
and
yours too, because mine started
yeah,
late as
exactly.
well. The people there were just not respectful. I was just like, yo, like I was already in a bad, like, I'll be real, and that's why I want to see this movie again. Is just because I
Yeah,
can't
me
hold
too.
this whole ordeal with WB and the marketing company that I had to use to see this movie, because that's not James Gunn's fault. That's not this movie's fault. It's literally this whole experience for the over the past 3 weeks of trying to see this movie has been
Hmm.
unpleasant. You know what I'm saying? Unpleasant to the point
Yeah.
where I think unless I'm invited, like, I'm just gonna give up on WB. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I don't know why they do this. Because it happens with Marvel too. When it comes to these comic book movies, these studios get so weird about it. Like, just give us a regular invite, whether you want us there or not, and that's it. We don't need to go through hoops or anything like that, you know? But I don't know why they act so weird when it comes to these types of flicks.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I look. Again, I got to and the other reason I got to see it again is just because there's so much. Like, the one cameo that got the big clap and applause was one I wasn't expecting. Like,
Hmm.
the other two, one's extended an extended cameo. Like me and Lee said, it shows you why crypto is the way it is. And when that character showed up, I was like, okay, I'm excited
Hmm.
for what's coming very soon then with this character. And the other two, the one the one cameo which got a huge applause, I was like, okay, cool. That's cool that that character popped up in there, and he's gonna be a slime ball. I was like, cool. I guess he's gonna come into play later. And the other cameo I absolutely fucking hated.
Hmm. I have to find out which one that is because I miss it. I guess
It's a
we'll talk
character.
about it later.
Well, it's a character who's been in things already. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
Okay.
and do
Okay.
you know who I'm talking about?
Not really, but we'll touch base. I just don't want to spoil it
It
for your listeners.
well, this is my problem with this shit is
Hmm.
I feel like James Gunn is picking and choosing now. And that's my problem, is like, this is supposed to be a reset for the DC universe, but then you're bringing back characters and actors who were in other shit you did with DC before this reboot, and they're
Hmm.
back in this, and I'm just like, well then, bro, if they're in this, why are we doing this whole ass reboot? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of shit pisses me off, because I'm like, oh, so it's okay for the shit that you worked on to be canon, but then all the other shit is thrown out the window.
Hmm. It's the nature of the business, I guess, bro. But it looks like they're giving this guy the keys to the kingdom with this entire franchise thing, right?
Yeah, and watching this movie, I understand why. Because I'll be like, at
Hmm.
least the one thing I walked out with, I was like, well, at least James Gunn understood Superman and isn't like doing crazy wild shit that would piss people off. Because, like, again,
Yeah.
I like Man of Steel, but there is shit in Man of Steel where I'm just like, but why though? Like, the whole characterization with Ma and Pa Kent in this one, I was just like, oh, thank God. They are literally Ma and Pa Kent. You know what I mean?
That's it, exactly.
Yeah, uh, that I'll be real. That was one of the best scenes in the movie, is with Pa
When
Kent. That
he's
shit.
talking to his
Yeah,
parents?
and I
Yeah.
started to tear up a little bit. Going back to Nicholas Holt. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but
No, it's fine. Yeah.
going back to Nicholas Holt. Uh, I was like really digging his Lex, and I was also a little hot and cold because it got to like the second act of the movie where I was just like, man, this is really one note. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
not too
Hmm.
multi-dimensional. As
Yeah.
good as the job as Nicholas Holt was doing, but then it came to one scene, and at that one scene, I was just like, oh wow. I was like, this is the most evil version of Lex that has been in live action. Not because they've
Yeah.
done evil Lex in animated plenty, but like,
Hmm.
I think you know what scene I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I do. And see, it's because of that why I enjoyed this Lex Luthor a lot more than any other Lex Luthor I've seen because I mean, bro, again, he's in your face.
Yeah,
He's a fucking prick.
yeah,
He's slimy. He's he's slick, in so many different ways that you're like, yo, this, I don't know whether I should love him or hate him.
I mean,
He's got that type of appeal.
he teeters the whole movie between asshole and piece of shit, and then once it got to that scene, I was just like, oh no, dude, you are just straight up like you are a garbage person. I was like, holy shit.
Hmm.
And to kudos to Warner Brothers and everybody in charge for letting him do that with Lex. I was just like,
Hmm.
I mean, that is more hardcore than what anybody does in what Lex does in fucking Snyder stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
for
crazy
sure.
because his shit is more violent. I was like, bro, this is much darker. um, and you feel it because like that character was set up in such a good way. Like I was just like, damn, bro, like because we live in we live near cities or in a city, and there's
Hmm.
always like people who you get food from. Like, hey, Johnny, how you doing today? Could I get my normal? He's like, yeah, I'll make it for you. How you doing? And so like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
for
Uh-huh.
that to happen to like
Hmm.
Superman's guy, I was like, damn, bro.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, again, this whole movie did work for me in so many ways, and you're right. It's jumpy and all in many, but it just, I don't know. I really liked it, and it's weird because I feel like this movie, you're either gonna love it or hate it.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be
Because
divisive.
as I was walking out of my screening, there was this couple that was like maybe I would say a few seats away from me, and as I was walking out, I heard the guy clearly say, he was like, this was awful. I mean, I don't know what he wanted, what he was, but he clearly said out loud, this is awful. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, I guess that's how it's going to be. That's how the audience is going to treat this. So you either love it or you hate it. But it's got no hate for me because I walked out feeling like, okay, let's roll.
I mean, I completely understand why people would hate this because this is going to be it's going to be too much for some people, and I get
Hmm.
it. I totally get it, but like uh look, let's get to some character like I talked about some characters who shouldn't be in it, and there's one more character I think who should not have been in it, and that's Hawk
Who's
Girl.
this? You know what? I didn't care much for any of them, but I enjoyed them being in the in the story for some reason because it sort of balanced out whenever Superman found himself, caught in a bind.
Well, it's Guy Gardner. I was like, cool, man. Like Nathan Fillion, perfect casting. The writing around Guy Gardner because everybody hates Guy Gardner. He's a no. That Green Lantern is one like James Gunn knows what he's doing. Nobody likes that Green Lantern. Like the whole time I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather see John or Hal or Jessica or anybody
Hmm.
but Guy. And this movie reminds me why I don't like Guy, and I think that was intentional. So I applaud him for that. But also,
Yeah.
I really, really like Mr. Terrific. Honestly, I think he was my favorite character in the movie. I was like, that is a character, besides Superman, that was
Hmm.
a character that, like, literally leapt off the comic on screen. I was just like, damn, dog. I kind of wish Mr. Terrific was, like, the co star of this movie from the jump, honestly.
Hmm. Hmm. So what was it about Hawkgirl that you didn't really like much?
She was just there, bro. Like, it's nothing against
Yeah, yeah,
Isabella Merced because I like her as an actress,
yeah,
and it's nothing against Hawk Girl the character. It was just to me, this movie's already doing so much and has too many characters, and just to have
yeah.
this
Way too
character,
many.
she was just there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's my
You know who stood out for me, and I enjoyed for like whatever moments she was on screen. The what's her name? The girl with the cornrows.
engineer.
Yeah, yeah, her. I there was something about her side by side with Luther that stood out, and I'm like, you know what, this duo kind of works for me.
Well, I did like. I gotta say, a lot of people said they didn't like Miss Tessmacher, and I did. I
Uh-huh.
liked Miss Tessmacher, and that's another reason why I think Kat shouldn't have been in this because, they were basically the same character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just thought Miss Tessmacher had a little more to her, but again, I think that's just because she had more screen time and more importance to the plot than Kat, because Kat was just there. And I love Jimmy Olsen. What they did with Jimmy in this movie is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never in a million years think to do what they did with Jimmy. I was just like, you perfect. David, because we haven't talked about Soups himself. David Crensworth or hold on. I'm butchering his name, but I gotta say, he's an awesome Superman. I gotta say, I really do like his version. How do you feel?
I do too. I was not feeling like off with it. I mean, he really played it off well. And like I said, to me, there was a resemblance in some ways to Christopher Reeve. I don't know if it was like done specifically for that, but there was something about his aura, his style, his just like his overall demeanor, and even his look to a certain degree that reminded me of Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, David Cornswet. Yeah, like I think he was. I don't know. He didn't look like Christopher Reeve to me, but I do appreciate going back to what Christopher Reeve was doing, but it's his own version. Like, I don't want to say he was doing exactly what Chris was doing, but it
Yeah.
was definitely a new version of what we've seen before. And I think
Hmm.
one of the challenges with Superman and why a lot of modern day audiences don't like him is because, he's a big blue Boy Scout and it's so traditional, rooted in like 1930s, 1950s, 1940s American
Hmm.
ideals. And I think they do a good job of updating the character to modern day without like destroying
Destroying.
his
Yeah.
values.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because there is a
Hmm.
point where Lombard is just relentless, and Clark turns to him. He's like, "Yo, shut up!" And I was just like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "This Superman does get fed up. Cool." I was like, "Cool."
Yeah. And what stood out to me a lot about this guy is you can feel his emotion when he has that conversation almost toward the end with Luther about him being human and all, like he's not an alien. Ooh, man, bro, that pierced right through me. I'm like, I can see it and I feel it. I'm like, this dude is good. He's really good.
Um, One other thing I want to touch upon. Well, two other things before we go is I did like Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. How'd you feel about
Mm-hmm.
her as
She
Lois?
was good. She was genuine. She felt it. I mean, and I didn't. I had nothing against her either. I thought it was really good, especially that end, like that end scene before the credits roll when they're together. That to me was like a good send off. I thought it was a good display of like unity, love, respect. Like having gone through thick and thin together.
It's really disappointing to me that because to me, my favorite Lois is still Amy Adams, because Amy Adams is just one of our best actresses, and she really does embody Lois Lane. And I think
Hmm.
Rachel Brosnahan does too, but it really disappoints me that Rachel Brosnahan gets to do so much more with the character in general in this movie than Amy Adams did across 3 movies. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like that shit is crazy to me. I was just like, yo, James Gunn figured out a way to utilize her to make her important to the plot of this movie and give her some agency where she's just not there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. And I guess that's where the mindset was different in approaching the two different types of characters in each movie. Snyder, I don't know, like, Snyder is Snyder. He does his thing and he's all about the look and the explosions and all sorts of shit. I guess Gunn really is like he's methodical with how he presents his characters. And even though one may have more than the other, in the end, it seems like they're all equally like involved and part of everything.
Um, before we get into my final thing I wanted to discuss, I do want to say like one of the complaints from Man of Steel was the destruction of Metropolis, and I
Hmm.
also do think that was done better here, just because it wasn't the entire city. You know what I'm saying?
No.
And there's shots of this, like there's one shot where after Superman saves somebody, he's floating in a cloud of rubble, and I was just like, holy shit. I was just like, that shot of him floating in that dust cloud, I was just like, that might be a image that is like, that is the most comic book image I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy shit, that could be the cover of one of these comics. Like, the only other thing I've seen come close to that, where I was just like, oh, holy shit, that looks like a shot from a comic book, was in The Dark Knight, where Batman is standing in the rubble. That iconic shot, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I was just like, whoa. I was just like, holy shit. Which is a great segue to my final point. James Gunn, I do like his direction here. My only problem with his direction is he shoots the entire movie with a wide angle lens, and the wide angle lens does not work with close-ups. I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't work. Yeah. It works when he's flying, because when he's flying and we got these close-ups, you feel the speed, you know what I'm saying? Because the edges of the frame are blurred and his hair's being pushed back. You can feel that. So wide angle lenses work there, but like when they're showing his parents at the beginning of the movie, where he's listening to the message of his parents, and I don't want to say the actors who are playing his parents on Krypton, like Jor-El and Jor-El, I can't remember Superman's real mom's name, but it's Jor-El and his mom. There's close-ups of it, and I'm like, bro, these close-ups with this wide-angle lens are just weird and awkward and unpleasant. I don't know how you felt about that.
I didn't really notice that. I guess on the more technical aspect of it, I really didn't pay attention. But I do plan to watch this again. And now that we've had this conversation, and you've mentioned this, now I'm going to be looking out for that. I've seen the movie already, so now the second viewing is going to be more toward just like trying to find things that I did not see the first time, and then catch technical stuff like that.
Right. I'm
But
I'm gonna go see it again in 3D, because it's playing in IMAX 3D, and I was just like, IMAX doesn't really do 3D that much anymore, so I was like, I'll check it out in IMAX 3D, because, Guardians 1, 2, and 3 are great. He did great 3D with those, but I think the best 3D was the first Guardians, but James Gunn knows really how to do 3D well, so I'm interested to see how he does 3D in this, but like, I do. Maybe you should come back on and we should do a follow-up, just because, like, again, I was so jaded, and the whole experience of watching this the first time was just not pleasant, even though I enjoyed the movie greatly. And I just want to see if the movie works better a second time as well.
A second time, yeah. Me too. Like, I'm down. Like, I want to catch an early morning screening, so it's just like a handful of people and myself. There's no clapping, there's no chanting or ooh and ahhing, whatever. And sometimes that works for some movies, but that's one of the reasons why I want to avoid promo screenings, because of the oohs and the ahs and the clapping and all that stuff. It's I mean, maybe I'm old school or whatever, but when I go to a theater, I want to watch a movie. I don't want to scream or anything like that. So
if I go to see a movie normally, I expect like people to do dumbass shit, so I'm not too mad, because I expect that shit. But when I'm going to a screening that I've been invited to by either the studio or a marketing company, I expect a little better than what me and you were given, because this was was unprofessional, quite frankly, and the people who were there, who were quote unquote pros, weren't professional throughout the entire fucking movie. Like, I just had a bad experience, and by the time I sat in my seat, I was already just so fucking pissed off, because like, I'll give you, for example, like, people, there was a press line and there was a Gen Pop line, and these press motherfuckers were so unprofessional that they started cutting each other. They were running into the theater. So by the time I got in, like, there was like basically no good seats left because me and some other people, we did the right thing and stood in the press line. And so when people started jumping, I was like, oh, holy shit. And the black people in front of me, they looked at me like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? I was like, the audacity and the privilege going on. You know?
And you see that shit a lot at a lot of these screenings, you know.
Yeah, but you know what? New York,
Um,
what even for normal press screenings where it's pros and like pros, I'm talking about like I run into people who write for Vulture, Variety,
mhm,
the Daily Beast,
mhm,
the Hollywood Reporter. They're all there all the time, and I know them.
mhm,
Like IndieWire, they're there. We all stand in a line. Like you'll get a few
mhm.
knuckleheads who will walk up and be like, "Yeah, can I check? I'm ready to check in," and they'll give their name, and the press people and the reps will they'll be like, "Well, there's a line right there. You see the line, right?"
Yeah,
And I've seen
yeah.
like high profile people do this, and I start laughing because me and you are usually at the front of the line.
At the front of the line,
But
exactly.
like this screening and this, I was just like,
Yeah.
dude, fuck everybody, fuck these people, fuck Warner Brothers, fuck the marketing company, fuck the people who are
Yeah,
running
yeah,
this shit. Like it was just,
yeah,
yeah, man.
yeah.
I'll be like, I think going forward, if it's a Warner Brothers movie, if I'm not invited, I'm not going to fight for it like I had to fight for this because it's just not
Yeah.
worth it. Because now
No, I
y'all
hear
told
you.
me what you really thought of me with this
Hmm.
screening, and you know what, man? Why should I give the courtesy back? Is my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how they will treat you like platinum when it's something that they know might not do well and they want to push to everyone, and they'll give you they'll roll out the red carpet for you. But then when it comes to shit like this, especially these comic book movies, they get so weird about it, you
Yeah.
know, and but again, it's the nature of the beast, I guess. It is what it is, but I do definitely intend to watch this again, and I'll definitely come back and we'll do like a little rehash of it, maybe a spoiler one, and just get right into it, you know?
My thing is I want to see if this is more cohesive on a second time because that's like literally my biggest complaint is like a lot of people found it episodic, and I definitely didn't. I thought there was a plot there the
No, no,
entire time.
yeah,
And I was like,
yeah,
where y'all
yeah,
getting episodic from? I do agree with
yeah.
a lot of people that the tone fluctuates a little too much for
Hmm.
its own good. And there's just too many fucking characters. And I just want to see if
Hmm.
it's a little more cohesive the second
Yeah.
time around. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, because it is a lot to chew on in terms of characters, which is why earlier when we were talking, I said there were some that worked for me, some that I just didn't really care
Yeah,
for,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So
Because you have
maybe, yeah, the second time around, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it, it's all right, now it's fine.
I
But let's
I
see.
also understand the struggle because you have an uphill battle because you gotta reintroduce Superman, and not only do you have to reintroduce Superman, you have to put all the iconic Superman characters in this, which he does,
Yeah,
and then you gotta
yeah,
set up the DC universe, which he does.
hmm,
It's
yeah,
for what I think it's a lot more successful for when they tried to do this. Like they've tried to do this before, like Iron Man 2,
hmm,
Avengers, Age of Ultron definitely suffered from that.
yeah,
Obviously Batman and versus Superman.
yeah. That
uh,
was a joke. Like that should have never been greenlit, but that's a whole other topic.
yeah, I mean that movie is something. Yeah, again, I go see it.
Yeah,
Go.
definitely.
Lee, would you recommend people seeing it in IMAX? Because the entire movie is in IMAX.
I would listen. I am a huge fan of watching things large and loud. You know, if you're gonna, it's no crime to watch this on an iPad or whatever, but you're doing yourself a huge disservice if you're gonna wait till it comes out on streaming or you're gonna watch it on your iPhone. Listen, you're robbing so much. I wouldn't even recommend that. Just, I always say watch it loud and watch it large.
Yeah,
I would recommend it in IMAX.
I love IMAX. I love.
Hmm.
That's a format I choose every time I get
Hmm.
it. I don't
Yep.
know if you want to go, definitely go see it, but like watching it in IMAX, I was like, I'm would not be I would understand if people would opt out for IMAX for this one. I get it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like this movie, but if somebody told me like, hey, I'm gonna see this in Dolby rather than IMAX, I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it probably would play better in Dolby. No offense to, and I love IMAX dearly. Seriously, I love it dearly.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Me
like,
too. Me too. Yeah.
I don't, for some reason I don't know. I don't. It was okay for me in IMAX.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, I gotta just see it again. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Is like I think maybe. Do you think maybe my experience kind of colored the IMAX experience for me?
I think so. I think so because it kind of did it for me too, in a sense. I didn't have the craziness with the crowd that you had in terms of going in, but when once we're sitting there and the movie's supposed to start, then it doesn't start, and then you have these marketing people who are on the floor and they're taking pictures and scream and say to me it like, oh, all that, it's like, all right, can we just get this fucking movie going? I came to see a movie. I didn't come to I don't know, some sort of a club or something
Yo,
like
that's
that,
the other thing that kind of got on my nerves too. Is like that there was a dude dressed as Batman. There was a dude dressed as Superman. There was a woman dressed as Supergirl, and they were out taking pictures because
Hmm.
they were part of the friends and family group. They were out taking pictures the entire time with fans in the Gen Pop line, and they were taking
Yeah.
pictures in front of the
Same
poster.
here, bro.
And
Same
I was
here.
like, oh,
Same
so these
here.
people are not only are they friends and family, but I have a feeling they're influencers as well. I was just like,
Yes.
Jesus
Yes.
fucking Christ. I
Exactly. So I think that alone is what tarnished the experience of watching this for both you and myself. And that's why I need to see it again.
Yeah.
You know.
Lee, thank you
But
for coming on and doing this with me. Where can
thank
people
you, sir.
where can people find you?
Well, nowadays I'm not on well, I am on Letterbox as Lee Romero. And I'm not really on social media, but you can read my reviews at corrientelatina.com.
All right. Well, thank
All
you.
right.
That will we'll come back. We definitely have more to say about Superman because obviously you guys can tell we're dancing around giving shit away.
Exactly. We're tiptoeing around shit,
Oh, so there it is, our Superman special. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you very much, sir.
We're the Film Blurs. I'm Brandon Nord, and I'm the motherfucking protagonist.
I'm the protagonist.
I'm Jeff Stewart, aka He Who Remains.
Don't come at us. It's just fucking movies.
You've been listening to the Film Blurs podcast.
Man, I just love what you guys do, man.
I never miss an episode. It's the best. It's my favorite podcast.
Follow Jeff on IG on MindFire XL and Brandon on Twitter at BJN Tweets.